Babak Khorramdin was born on September 23 of 1974 in the Ekbatan district of Tehran, the capital of Iran. Not much is known about his childhood and upbringing, only the details regarding his career. Babak graduated from the Faculty of Fine Arts at the University of Tehran in 2009, bringing with him a degree in cinema. Only a year later, he traveled to London in order to further study filmmaking and hone his skills. Babak was nothing if not ambitious. Between Iran and London and the years 2004 and 2017, he produced 8 total films. 3 of them were short films under the title Cut. Bor Bisha De Rang was released in 2007 and received the award for Best Short Fiction Film at the Asa International Film Festival, as well as securing Babak the honor for Best Director at the 5th Parvin at Asame International Film Festival. Furthermore, it won Best Screenplay and Best Voice Editing at the 6th Nahal Student Film Festival. Tuesday Mom came out in 2009. He released a semi-feature film called Aperture in 2010. His only feature film was an elegy for Yashar in 2013. Babak's last film was Being in 2017. Several of his films received nominations for awards in screenplay, cinematography, editing, and sound design. Although his work would seem strange to most of the Western world, which has very different styles in the film industry, Babak's talent was undeniable. He always invited his parents to the award shows, letting them know that his success was due in part to the way they raised him. Babak went on to teach filmmaking at Karaj University in Iran, and he even taught the course online during the COVID pandemic. On May 16th of 2021, a municipal worker was cleaning out a garbage bin on Nafisi Street in Ekbatan district when he came across a heavy bag that was stained with blood. He opened the bag and found that it was wrapped around a suitcase. He opened the suitcase, and the contents horrified him. Stuffed into the suitcase were various human body parts, including shoulders, palms, arms, and ankles. Sickened by his discovery, the worker called the police. The police sent the remains for forensic analysis, which revealed that they belonged to a man between 40 and 50 years old. He had only been dead for a few hours. The police started questioning security guards who worked for the apartment buildings in the surrounding area. The guards reported that each apartment building had a garbage chute, and the guards always checked each piece of garbage for any illegal items. Due to this procedure, they believed the killer most likely did not live in the area, or even if they did, they had walked down to the garbage bin and placed the suitcase there manually. The police checked the CCTV footage from the apartments and saw an elderly man carrying the same suitcase in a nearby building. In the meantime, investigators determined that there was enough flesh to retrieve fingerprints, and this allowed them to identify the victim as Babak Khorramdin. The police went to the apartment where his parents lived in order to break the news, but they were shocked when they arrived. Babak's father, Ali Akbar Khorramdin, answered the door, and he looked identical to the man from the CCTV footage. However, Akbar and his wife, Iran Musavi Sani, claimed they didn't know what had happened to their son or where he had gone. The police suspected that they were lying, so they obtained more CCTV footage from different areas of the building and began to question the neighbors. Several neighbors reported that they had heard arguing from the Khorramdin apartment on the day in question. The police proceeded to search the unit, where they found bloodstains in the bathroom. Perhaps most incriminating was CCTV footage that proved Babak had entered his parents' apartment but never left. Akbar and Musavi had been seen with bags and suitcases on the day in question, and Musavi had been struggling to keep the elevator doors open. One of those suitcases matched the one with Babak's remains. The investigation continued in the surrounding area, and the police found more body parts in various garbage bins. The couple was arrested and both quickly confessed, claiming that they were going to turn themselves in anyway. According to the confession, Musavi had put sleeping pills in Babak's food and he passed out, which allowed the couple to tie his wrists and ankles to the bed. They proceeded to wrap a plastic strap around his neck, then they each stabbed him 3 times in the chest. They untied him, carried his body to the bathroom, and dismembered his corpse with a knife and a cleaver. They separated the remains into 3 different cases and disposed of them. When asked why they had committed such a terrible crime, Akbar and Musavi stated that their son had not been married, which brought dishonor on their family. They also claimed that he had been abusive, threatened their lives, and refused to leave them alone. According to Akbar, he offered to sell his car and give Babak his entire inheritance if Babak would simply leave them alone, but Babak refused. Babak's parents also accused him of sleeping with various unmarried women, including his own students. Finally, Akbar claimed that Babak had started abusing drugs and alcohol. Throughout the confession, neither Akbar nor Musavi showed any remorse. They were content with their actions and did not see why anyone would disagree. The Iranian public was outraged by the murder, with countless people insulting Babak's parents and even making memes about the honor killing online. However, Babak's funeral was handled much more respectfully. On May 26th, he was laid to rest in a cemetery that is reserved for artists. His students and other filmmakers gathered to mourn his passing and pay tribute to him. Many people also rallied outside his parents' home to pay their respects. The garbage bins that had contained Babak's remains were removed from the premises and a tree was planted there instead. When various neighbors were asked about the accusations from Babak's parents, they stated that Akbar and Musavi had been lying. Everyone who knew Babak said that he was kind-hearted and moral. In fact, if anyone had been immoral, it was Akbar himself. Born in 1941, Akbar Yazdani had quickly developed extremist nationalist beliefs, going so far as to change his surname. The reason for this change was so that he could name his son Babak Khorramdin, which was also the name of an Iranian revolutionary who fought against the Abbasid Caliphate. Akbar was extremely prejudiced against Arabs. In his own words, "I have a problem with Arabs. I don't like them. If I had the power, I would eliminate all Arabs." It also came to light that Akbar had been absent from his family for 17 years while serving in the Iranian military, which prevented his children from having a healthy relationship with him. Furthermore, Akbar's treatment of Babak had never been geared towards improving his son's life. Rather, Akbar had always wanted to be the center of attention. In January of 2015, Babak invited his father to the Iranian Cinema Museum for a screening of An Elegy for Yashar, and Babak allowed his father to speak. Instead of congratulating his son or showing any pride whatsoever, Akbar spoke about his own achievements in the military. He finished this speech by advising young Iranians to never leave the country, all while Babak, who had studied in London, was standing right next to him. Having firmly established the unsavory nature of Akbar's personality, the police decided to gather more witnesses in the case. However, they ran into a very disturbing roadblock. 2 of Akbar and Musavi's relatives, Faramaz Golab and Arezou Khorramdin, Akbar's son-in-law and daughter, were both missing. The authorities started to think that Babak may have been killed because he noticed their disappearance and grew suspicious. In order to get a clearer picture of the situation, the authorities began to investigate these relatives. Faramaz was born in 1966 and was raised by his paternal uncle. Their household was traditional and religious, which prevented Faramaz from drinking and smoking. He had a healthy relationship with his family and worked as an electrical technician. Arezou, on the other hand, was stuck in a loveless marriage. In 1999, she divorced her husband and soon developed depression. However, she met Faramaz not long after and they became a couple. Faramaz's family accused him of loving Arezou out of pity, not because of true passion. After getting engaged, the couple started having frequent arguments that delayed their wedding more and more. They broke up and later reconciled more than once, and Arezou even attempted to end her own life after one of these breakups. In 2011, the couple finally tied the knot and moved out of their family's homes in Tehran, but the fighting continued. On December 14th of 2011, Arezu went to her family's home carrying a knife and told Akbar that she wanted to end her marriage once and for all. Akbar offered to do the deed himself because he did not want his daughter to be a killer. He alleged that Arezu put sleeping pills in Faramaz's food and Akbar stabbed him to death after he fell asleep. With the help of 3 friends, he dismembered the corpse, put the pieces in bags, and disposed of them. Just like with his son's death, Akbar showed no remorse and believed that it was Faramaz's fault for having bad morals. On March 15th of 2012, Akbar went to Faramaz's family residence to tell his family that he had divorced Arezu and fled to Osnaviye in the hopes of leaving the country. Faramaz's family could not believe that he would do such a thing, but they eventually came to accept that he was dead after they heard nothing from him. The police were extremely skeptical of this whole story. Firstly, Mousavi had already confessed that the murder of Faramaz had been a joint effort between herself and Akbar. She had never mentioned Arezu being involved. Second, they discovered that Arezu had called Faramaz's number 14 times after his disappearance, which suggested that she was very concerned for his safety. Lastly, her mental health took a massive plummet after Faramaz's disappearance. She posted about taking her own life on Facebook in 2013. Following Akbar's arrest in 2021, people who had known Arezu came forward with accounts that further contradicted Akbar's story. They reported that Arezu had confided in them about Akbar's sexual advances on her, including how Akbar had essayed her when she was 8 years old. Unfortunately, the police dismissed these accounts as baseless claims. When it comes to Arezu's fate, she had gone missing back in 2018. When the police had confronted Akbar and Mousavi, they had claimed that she had run away to Istanbul, Turkey, and was hoping to immigrate to Canada and seek refugee status. While in Canada, she had a mental breakdown that resulted in her being placed in a mental hospital. This story also seemed very suspect, and Akbar and Mousavi soon confessed with a very different account. According to their confession, they had drugged and stabbed Arezu in the same manner as Babak and Faramaz, then dismembered and disposed of her remains the same way as well. Akbar claimed that the motive had been her immoral behavior, including drug and alcohol abuse as well as socializing with strangers. The police believed the motive was actually because they did not want Arezu to become suspicious of Akbar and Mousavi after Faramaz's death. Just like with the other murders, Akbar showed no remorse and believed he was completely justified in his actions. He stated that if the police released him, he would murder his 2 remaining children for their loose morals. Mousavi agreed with this sentiment. Click the join button to become a member today. Channel members receive exclusive content as well as early access to all my content. The couple were given a psychiatric evaluation, which determined that Akbar was perfectly sane. Mousavi, on the other hand, was mentally ill, although not enough to cloud her judgment so far as to think killing her own children was justified. Therefore, both Akbar and Mousavi were fit to stand trial. Initially, during the course of providing their confessions, Mousavi had echoed her husband's sentiments, speaking of the 3 victims with disgust and hatred. However, on June 28th of 2021, Mousavi changed her tune. She claimed that her marriage to Akbar had been arranged and she didn't actually love him. She stated that Akbar had essayed Arezu, which confirmed the accounts from Arezu's friends. She added that Akbar had also essayed her as a means of getting her to comply with his murder plots. The judge and prosecutors did not believe her. Intriguingly, the other inmates at the prison also thought that she was lying. They all despised her and believed she was simply playing the victim to get a lenient sentence. When it came time for the trial, things got a little more complicated. Faramaz's siblings forgave Akbar for murdering their brother. This matters deeply in the Iranian justice system, where fathers are considered to own their children's blood. The Iranian justice system states that leniency must be shown to people who murder their own children. Due to this, the death penalty was out of the question and Akbar was looking at a maximum of 10 years in prison. He was also never charged with SA. However, Akbar was not destined for a prison cell. At the time, he was suffering from malignant cancer and it was widely presumed that he would not survive much longer. He requested a medical release in order to live out the last few days of his life in peace, but the judges denied this request. On November 21st of 2021, Ali Akbar Khorramdin was found dead in his cell from cardiac arrest. Nature had taken its own form of justice. Mousavi stood trial at Branch 13 of the Criminal Court of Tehran Province. During the proceedings, she changed her story yet again. This time, she claimed that she had no involvement in the murders whatsoever. She had only confessed because Akbar had threatened her. The only crime she had committed was disposing of the remains. Her lies fell on deaf ears. The prosecutor stated that she was just as malicious as her husband. She knew what she was doing the whole time, and she was using Akbar's death as a means of escaping punishment. On June 9th of 2022, Iran Mousavi Sani was found guilty and sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Just 2 months into her sentence, she was granted amnesty and released early. Following this, her remaining family members have disowned her, wanting nothing to do with her. The most recent reports on her life stated that she was living in a nursing home with constant medical care. She never receives any visitors and will most likely linger there until the day she dies. This case is downright sickening. The murders themselves were perpetrated by family members, people who were supposed to love and support the victims. The victims themselves did nothing to deserve their fates. They were simply connected to a pair of murderers through no fault of their own. Finally, there was no real justice in the end. Akbar passed away before serving any real time, and Mousavi was released very early. This case remains an extremely disturbing example of humanity's very lowest.